brand new local search ranking factor survey that just came out this November, which has essentially become the industry standard for understanding what actually drives rankings for local businesses.
It's a survey of the top experts in local search, and what you do is you just score every single possible factor, and then you give each factor a certain amount of weight, and then you get to see what are the absolute most impactful thing that everyone agrees is going to have a huge impact on your rankings. It's like your guiding document on how to optimize for local search.
This is a huge deal in local SEO, so you might want to update up to 30% of the content on any given page.
There's not a lot of changes, but there are a few things that you maybe should have been doing before that you should be doing now.
Interesting. What would you say is your message to the local business owners out there or the local SEOs? What do you think they need to know? What do you want to tell them?
I would tell them,
Hey there, my name's Daniel Leibrandt, and welcome back to Local Marketing Secrets. Today I'm joined by Darren Shaw, one of the most respected names in all of local SEO. Darren is the founder of Whitespark, a leading local SEO software company used by businesses all over the world, and he's also the current steward of the annual Local Search Ranking Factor Survey, which has essentially become the industry standard for understanding what actually drives rankings for local businesses. Today, we're breaking down the brand new Local Search Ranking Factor survey that just came out this November. We'll discuss what's changed, what's surprising, and what you should be focusing on going into 2026 and beyond. Now, without further ado, Darren, welcome to the show.
thanks for having me, Danny. It's great to be back. I'm a big fan of your show and everything that you're doing. It's great to see how you've really claimed the pest control SEO. You are the guy. It's great to be with you.
I really appreciate that, Darren. Yeah, no, it's great to have you back on. It's crazy that the last time was, I think it was August of last year, 2024, which feels like so long ago, and so much has changed. But it's great to have you back on. So for people that maybe want some more background on Darren or some kind of more baseline local SEO stuff, make sure to watch that interview. But like I said, in this one, we're really going to focus on this new local search ranking factor survey, which, by the way, Darren, I think you remember, I've been hammering you on the DMs. I'm like, dude, when is the next one coming out? I'm waiting. I need to interview you when it comes out. So it's finally come out. This is a huge deal in local SEO. And first, Darren, for people that maybe aren't familiar or need a refresher, what is the local search ranking factor survey?
Yeah, so the Local Search Ranking Factors Survey was originally developed by David Mim way back in 2008, and it was based off of, I think Rand Fishkin at Moz had put out the SEO Ranking Factors Survey, and so it's the local version of that. So he started in 2008, and it's a survey of the top experts in local search, the people that are doing the research, studying what's driving local search rankings, publishing, speaking on stages, sort of like the most prominent people in the local search industry. So there's 47 of them this year that I interviewed or that completed the survey. It's a grueling 2-hour plus survey. It takes a very long time to complete the survey. And what you do is you just score every single possible factor. So I have a list of 188 different factors, and then you give each factor a certain amount of weight, and then in aggregate, I add them all up, and then you get to see what are the absolute most impactful thing that everyone agrees this is the thing that's going to have a huge impact on your rankings, down to the very bottom of the list, which is a whole bunch of stuff that probably doesn't matter. Very useless things you don't need to worry about. So the survey is great for forming the direction about what you need to focus on in local SEO. And it's also fantastic that it's a recurring survey because you get to see sentiment shift over time. Factors that used to be powerful, no longer important. Factors that used to be kind of mid, oh my gosh, we realized that Google's really cranked the dial on this, and so now it's coming up to the top. So the survey is a fantastic way to it's like your guiding document on how to optimize for local search.
And something that I really like about it too is kind of the way that it's categorized. So it's not just top ranking factors for local SEO, but it's what are the top ranking factors for the local pack, which is Google Business Profiles, for organic results, which would be for the website, for local service ads, for conversion factors. And one that I want to maybe start out with is AI search. So I know that's a new one that just came out with this one. It hadn't been in previous surveys. So what made you add that? And maybe tell me a little bit more about AI search and what you found there.
For sure. So it felt very important to add AI search to this year's survey because we see a lot of, like, if you follow SEO, everyone is just talking about how do I rank? How do I get more visible in ChatGPT and LLMs like Gemini and Claude? Like, I want my brand to be returned in those. And so this is on everybody's mind right now. It truly represents the future of search. So it's actually really important to know how things are different. What do you have to optimize for to be visible in those platforms rather than traditional Google results? And so that's what that section has been added for. That's why we added that section. And it's very fascinating to look at the differences. And so that's why we added it. And I don't know, do you want to talk about, like, dive into it? What are the results?
So I'll mention one thing related to that. So I found it interesting on our last podcast we did a little over a year ago. You were mentioning citations are kind of on the decline. They don't matter as much as they used to. And I don't know, you should still have them. Like, it's kind of just a foundation. But it seems like citations are making a comeback. Is that right?
That is correct. And it is definitely driven by AI search. And so the idea of traditional search really being focused on links as a factor that drives your organic rankings. In the world of LLMs, it's not really the links as much as it's the mentions. And so mentions are citations. That's a mention of your business entity somewhere on the web. And so we are absolutely seeing a surge, or like a resurgence, of the importance of citations. But being more specific about citations as well. And so, yes, citations are kind of back. People that were doing SEO the right way in the past probably didn't have to change their strategy much with citations. But there were other people that had just written citations off completely. No, I'm not going to bother with them. But there's an awareness now that citations are actually still critically important. I think they always were for traditional search, but being listed on the most important sites in your industry, the big sites, the obvious ones like Better Business Bureau, Facebook, LinkedIn, having all of those real classic pages created for your business. Yelp is a big one. Yellow Pages, MapQuest is surprisingly important. And so being listed on the important sites, plus anything that's specific to your industry, being listed and being optimized on those sites is moving in importance in the world of AI search. And a huge one, which is a very challenging one, is getting listed on expert curated, best of the city type lists. So you'll see those on Yelp. You'll see them on local blogs. You'll definitely see them in the restaurant space. So, like, best bakeries in Dallas, best cafes in New York. Like, you will see these lists. And if your business is listed on those lists, the large language models like ChatGPT and Gemini are absolutely referencing those lists. When you go to ChatGPT and say, give me a list of the best bakeries in Dallas, you're going to get that. They would definitely look at those sites. And so getting listed on those is very valuable and very important.
Okay, cool. Yeah, no, I've seen and heard that citations, especially relevant ones like that, are super important, the best of lists. And then what about other ranking factors for AI search? Anything that stood out to you?
Review diversification, I think, is a big one. So a lot of people, for the longest time, they've been like, well, the only thing that matters is Google. So I'm only going to worry about getting reviews on Google. But with the large language models, it becomes obvious that they are referencing reviews on many sites, not just Google. And so diversifying your review strategy to, every fifth review request, send it to another site, send it to your Facebook page, send it to your page on that industry specific site, try to get reviews on these other sites. That's really valuable. That's something that is kind of new with AI search. Definitely seeing that grow as a strategy. That's important. Press releases are surprisingly effective with AI search these days, at least with ChatGPT. So if you put out a press release, that actually is beneficial. So we're seeing businesses get into like what's new? What can we make a press release about? And then like trying to do like a monthly press release, just trying to be visible. content freshness appears to be extremely important for the large language models. So they want to return data and information that is recently updated. So if you're not updating your service pages on a regular basis, that's something that you definitely want to start thinking about. So making sure that each page on your service is kind of getting like a monthly review and change, and you're supposed to change about 30% of the content. So you want that page to not just, you don't want to just change a couple words. You want to try to make a substantial change where you rewrite a paragraph and you add a new frequently asked questions and you change the images up. So just giving each page a review on a regular schedule, that's another thing that you want to be doing for AI search, just trying to future proof.
Interesting. Okay. I didn't know it was that intense that you might want to update up to 30% of the content on any given page. How would you go about that? Just, I mean, like adding new FAQs, or maybe something's a little outdated? Because I know something like location pages can get pretty repetitive, and there's not much nuance or things to add. So how do you go about that?
It's enough just to rewrite the paragraph. And so if you already have a paragraph written and then you kind of run it through ChatGPT and say, rewrite this paragraph, and then it rewrites it, and then you tweak the output, and then you paste it back in, that looks like a whole new chunk. And I would also make an effort to change my headings. So the headings on the page are really critical. So the H1, H2, H3s, update your bullet points. So just making a substantial reworking of the page is the way I would approach it. And FAQs are great too. You can tweak the FAQs. One strategy is to have a set of, let's say, 20 FAQs, and then on a monthly base, but your page only shows 8, for example, and then you take 4 away and add 4 new ones, and on like a rotating basis. Just kind of swapping in the FAQs, just for the sort of freshness hack.
Okay, that makes sense. And something else I wanted to make sure to cover, which just is arguably the biggest news from this whole document, which, by the way, if anyone wants to follow along, you can just look up Local Search Ranking Factors 2026, and you can, I mean, there's a ton of information there. So that's part of the reason why I wanted to do the podcast on it, because we can kind of go through all the high-level information. And I'd say one of the biggest takeaways for me that I found is business hours. So this was previously not even on the Local Search Ranking Factor survey. And now this is I believe it was number 5 for local pack rankings. Can you explain that, why you added it? And do you agree with that top 5 consensus?
Yes and yes. So I added it. It's like sometimes I feel like Joy Hawkins is punking me. So I published the Local Search Ranking Factors, and then like a couple of months after I published it, she's like, "There's a new ranking factor." And I'm like, "Oh, I just published the edition." So she announced this on a webinar I was doing with her and Luc Durand, and initially I was skeptical. I was like, I don't know, but she's 100% right. So yes, the way it works is Google preferences ranking businesses that are currently open. So what you will see happen is, like at, let's say, 5 p.m., if you have businesses that are open until 7 p.m., 8 p.m., 9 p.m. in your industry, let's look at pest control. So you got a pest control business. Your hours are 9 to 5. As soon as you close at 5 o'clock, but there are other businesses that are open until 6, 7, 8, your rankings will plummet and you'll be replaced by businesses that are open. And so it's like this weird temporary shift that seems to happen. And so, yes, of course, you might see businesses that are closed still ranking. Those ones have an order of magnitude more reviews and links and other fact signals that are driving it. But Google generally tends to rank businesses that are open. And so your strategy, your takeaway is to consider extending your hours. Or, especially in something like pest control, because you're a service area business, you could get a call answering service. And as long as you're answering your calls 24/7, you could be actually 24/7. And so whether or not it's worth it for you to be open 24/7, I don't know. You might want to just have a call service between the hours of 6 p.m. and midnight. Maybe just have calls answering there. 'Cause, like, who's really looking for pest control and calling businesses at 2 a.m? Probably not very many. So, but those are the things. Opening hours absolutely has an impact. Number 5 ranking factor this year, which didn't exist at all before, is business is open at time of search. Definitely a factor.
Yeah, yeah, I remember Joy, she published some kind of case study on that about a year ago or so.
Yep.
And now I've been recommending that to clients ever since.
Yep.
Because obviously I'm not answering the calls or I'm not directly involved in that side of the business. But
Yep.
hey, if you guys can stay open a little later, or if you can
Very
even
helpful.
hire a 24/7 call answering service, that would be great. And something also I wanted to clear up, and I think I heard you, maybe it was on when you got featured on the Near Media podcast recently, is that when a business is closing, let's say they close at 5 p.m. and starting at 4 p.m., it will say closing soon for that last hour. Do you start to lose rankings even then too?
Yes, I am seeing that, and because one of the things is that in our local ranking grid software, we do track whether the business was open or closed at the time of the scan, and so it's really great to use the software. You can run a scan at, let's say, 3 p.m. when the business is open, and let's say their ranking, their grid looks pretty decent, and then at 4 p.m. when it's an hour between when they close at 5, you'll see their grid contract a little bit, and they're not ranking as well. And then after 5 p.m., if you run the scan at like 5:15, then they really shrink up and they're not ranking very well at all. So you can definitely see it's like you take the first hit in the hour before you close, and then you take the rest of the hit after you're fully closed.
Dang. Okay, so that's really good to know for local business owners, especially like you mentioned, service area businesses where you don't have to worry about people actually coming to your location. You know, someone comes at like 10 p.m., but no, you know, they can just call and someone answers, and then you can service them the next day. And then something else I wanted to cover. So I was doing a little bit of digging through the questions at the bottom, which there's a lot of good stuff there. There's
I love that
a ton of information. And one thing you said there, I wanted to quote you, at least partially quote you, is that you said regarding reviews, it's not an overall numbers game. It's a recency/frequency game. Can you expand upon that and what you mean there?
Yeah, 100%. This is a big thing that's relatively new for 2026 is that, prior to this edition of the survey, it was kind of more of like, how many reviews do you have? This business has 5,000 reviews. This business has 500 reviews. Which one do you think is going to rank? And so if you asked me that question 2 years ago, I would have said, oh, well, the one with 5,000 reviews. Now my answer would change, and it depends on their review recency. So if this business with 5,000 reviews hasn't received a new review in 3 months, and this business with 500 reviews is getting like 10 new reviews every week, that's a very strong signal to Google that this business is hot and this business is not. And so what you will see happening is that like maybe that business is closed and they just haven't even updated their thing. And so Google is looking for signals to identify what business is really busy and happening right now. And so those reviews are a great signal for Google. And so review recency seems to be a stronger signal than even review volume. Review volume is still very important. That business with 5,000, if they have 5,000 and everyone else in their category has 100, they're probably going to dominate the rankings anyways. It's really when you get into those, everyone's kind of roughly around the same, that it's recency that seems to be the one that drives the needle more than anything else. And I see it in action. We see businesses, they're not doing very good. They got a couple of new reviews come in and boom, right up to the top. And then they'll hover at the top for a couple days, and then it starts to taper off if they don't get new reviews coming in. And so the strategy is make sure review requests are part of your regular ongoing strategy. You don't just do this thing where like once a month you send a blast out to your email list. Make sure you're asking every customer at the time of the sale.
Yeah. And I'm glad you mentioned not just recency, but also frequency here, because it's not just, we'll get a lot of reviews right now and then we're good. Well, no, it has to be on a very consistent basis, and that builds trust with Google. So,
100%.
I've seen that myself. I've seen pest control companies with 100 reviews smoke ones with 1,000 reviews because they've been getting them more consistently. So that's definitely huge. And like you said, I feel like that's a shift. Another big thing to note from the survey is the address showing for service area businesses. Can you expand on that one?
For sure. So what we will see happen So if you are a service area business, this is huge for pest control. You're a service area business and you don't actually have a physical location that people can come to, let's say, buy mouse traps and all the other stuff, right? So if you don't have that physical location, let's say you've registered your business at your home address and your address is currently showing on Google, that's technically a violation of Google's guidelines, and Google might ask you to re-verify, and then they will say, oh, you have to hide your address. So businesses that have been operating for 10 years, what will happen is they'll hide their address and their rankings plummet. Mm-hmm. We see it over and over and over again. It happens all the time. So this means, oh, there's a new ranking factor, and the factor is your business is either showing, your address is either showing, or your address is not showing. And if it's showing, you're going to rank better. If it's not showing, you're going to rank worse. This is the sort of black and white industry thinking on this. I have a slightly different thought process on it because I have seen this happen a lot of times. The service area business hides their address and their rankings disappear. Yes. But they didn't really disappear. They just went somewhere else. And so what ends up happening is if your business was originally registered and verified in one location and at some point you moved, when you hide your address, they move back to where it was first originally verified. I've seen that happen where, I no longer rank in Aurora, Colorado. I now rank in Colorado Springs. What is happening? Why did that happen? It's because you hid your address, which had Aurora, and it now moved back down to Colorado Springs because that's where it was registered. And so that, you definitely see that. Other times, sometimes it's just a weird bug. It's like, no, I never moved. My address has always been the same, but when I remove my address, I stop ranking. And so then you can do this cool thing where you create a huge grid of the whole state, and you can be like, oh, look, up in the top left there, 200 miles away, there's a little hint of green. And then you zoom in on that green by making more grids around that area. And you'd be like, wow, look, now we rank way up here in the middle of a farmer's field. I don't know why, but Google has somehow moved us up there. So there's this other factor, which is very important, which is proper position of the map pin. It comes in as ranking factor number 10. And when you no longer have an address, your pin is questionable. Where does Google put your map pin? And so that map pin sometimes just gets thrown willy-nilly somewhere on the map and you don't know where it is, but that's now the corpus of your ranking. And so what I typically see happen is that your rankings didn't really disappear. They just moved somewhere else, and you can find them with a good ranking grid. If you're looking for good software, the Whitespark local ranking grids is really great, but I might be a bit biased. But yeah.
No, I was just going to mention that. So, I mean, a lot of other tools have done like the ranking grid thing, but you guys recently came out with yours. I've heard some really good reviews. So yeah, if you guys are looking to track how your Google business profile is doing on different keywords and across your area, and like Darren is mentioning some of these more nuanced things, like whether you're open at a certain time or closed at a certain time, or whether you rank super far north or south, then you can use his software to do that. So you can go on Whitespark and check that out. And they have a ton of other software stuff. I recommend checking out all of that stuff. Something else I want to cover, Darren, here, and like an overall trend I saw was user engagement. I feel like that has become much more prevalent as well as to how people are interacting with the Google business profile, with the website, with other things. Have you seen a big jump in user engagement, or at least the perception of it?
I have seen a big jump in the perception of it. I think it's always been there, but people are becoming more aware of how important of a factor it is. I got to give a shout out to David Mim. He originally wrote about this, I think in like 2018, and he was saying the future, the 2020 local search ranking factor that's going to be most important more than anything else is going to be behavioral signals. And so he wrote this awesome post way back then. And it's like, it's definitely a thing. We've even seen really cool tests like with driving directions. So there was a great test where Holly Starks had put 100 cell phones in her car, and then she queued them all up to get driving directions to a business. And then she drove her car with 100 cell phones to the business, and their rankings went like straight to number one. So these kinds of signals Google is looking at because they represent real world activity. Google is like desperate to find these signals of what real humans are doing. And so behavioral signals is that. Driving directions, Are people clicking on your listing? Are they staying on your listing? Are they reading your reviews? So this is why having a fully populated Google Business Profile with lots of great photos, videos, get videos on your Google Business Profile if you don't have them yet. It's a huge factor that can keep people sticking on your Google Business Profile and spending more time on it. Like dwell time is a consideration. So if this is the main thing. Someone's looking for pest control in your city. They click on a profile. They spend a lot of time on that profile, and then they don't go back and look at other profiles. Google is like, oh, well, there's one person that liked that. Now, if you get 100 people doing that every single month, that really sends Google the signal that this is a great Google Business Profile. People are getting the answers that they want on this profile. They successfully completed their search. Great satisfaction. Google delivered what they wanted. That's what Google wants. And so these behavioral signals are really becoming local SEOs are becoming really aware of how valuable those behavioral signals are, and so doing anything you can on your profile to try and maximize those signals.
Yeah, definitely. I just interviewed Marie Haynes last week, which will be the interview before this one, and we talked extensively about that. And she said, Google's been pulling this data of all the micro interactions and engagement for 10 plus years, and now with the capability of AI, now they can take all of that information and now kind of credibly show the best results, at least, besides click-through rate manipulation. But I mean, reasonably so, Google should be showing, and other platforms should be showing, whatever people show are liking the best. And not necessarily reviewing the best, but even though obviously that's part of it, but how they're engaging with it, that they read through all the services, they're clicking, okay, this is cool, I'm going to read this review and watch this video, and then I'm going to call them, and like you said, I'm not going to work with anyone else, I'm just going to call them, and that's the end of the interaction. That is like, it seems like it's only going to go more that way.
Yeah, and I think your takeaway for anyone listening is consider your whole Google Business Profile a little bit like you would write an advertisement. You want it to be very conversion rate optimized. Everything on there, you're going to compel people that they have found the business and they don't need to look back to the results. So reviews are absolutely huge for that. That's why reviews are kind of this double factor. Yes, they improve your rankings, but they also, there's nothing more powerful than reviews for your conversions, for people to actually be like, okay, my search is over, I found the right business, because glowing review after glowing review and those reviews being recent has a huge impact. And so just really thinking about making sure your Google Business Profile is very content rich, every field is filled out and is compelling. That's one of the strongest things you can do.
Definitely. And kind of related to engagement is, and you were actually getting into this, is the photos and videos either on your profile or on your website. I've seen this had a huge jump across the survey. It's getting mentioned a lot more. I think there's even some new factors for photo and video. So how do photo and video impact Google Business Profile and or the website?
Yeah, I think this is another thing to think about with the advent of AI and AI search. There's a really fascinating test you can do. You can take a photo of, let's say a technician cleaning up an ant infestation. And so you could take that photo and you could put it into ChatGPT or into Gemini, and you can say, describe in detail what this photo is. You will be unbelievably blown away by how much information these LLMs are able to extract from the photos. And so it's almost like additional keywords and additional relevancy in your photos themselves. And so if you have a web page that has just, 2 paragraphs of text and no photos, that's very little information. Add 5 photos to that, and you just exploded the amount of information that the LLMs can extract from that web page. So thinking about your photos and making sure that your photos are relevant to the topics, super valuable. And then getting all of those photos up on your Google Business Profile. Now that's photos. Take it to a whole nother level, times it by 1,000 with video. Video is so powerful, and I think lots of businesses are still sleeping on video. But video also becomes super important from distribution. You don't really, like Google has really made it clear that they care what's on your social media channels. They're looking at your social to extract more information about your business. So video content on Instagram, video content in YouTube Shorts, video content on your Google business profile. Very, very important and valuable from just giving Google so much more information about your business. It's just phenomenal. So I think that these factors are absolutely the future of SEO. You need to be thinking about photos and videos and no stock. You should be definitely producing your own photos. Everyone's got a pretty high quality camera sitting in their pocket right now.
Yeah.
You can just be out there taking photos on the job. Every job, just make it a part of your process that when you're on the job, you're taking like 10 photos on every job. And then and you create a massive archive of really good photos.
Totally. Yeah. No, I tell all my clients the same thing. And kind of like you were mentioning, it seems like, I mean, it's undebatable that short form videos is the meta of content. I mean, it goes like even like LinkedIn, I think maybe a year or two ago, now even LinkedIn has a short form tab at the bottom. All these platforms, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, they've all adapted short form content. Do you think that Google Business Profile would do the same?
Not like in the same kind of feed. It's just a different delivery mechanism. But if you are producing that short form content on for any other channels, hardly anyone who is doing that is thinking about putting those videos on the Google Business Profile. Do it. It is really valuable to put that up there. So put all that video content on your Google Business Profiles. I don't imagine that you'll eventually have like, I'm going to browse local businesses and look at the photos, but it is possible. One way to think about it is like, if you go to the Google Maps app right now on your phone, you can say the default is latest in the area. You see this little section that says latest in the area, and those are all the Google posts. And so you can scroll through them, and sometimes there's updates from customers. Customers have uploaded a post to a Google Business Profile, and sometimes they're from the business. But there is a potential world where you could be like in the Google Maps app, have like a video feed where you could scroll through business videos. I would not put it past them to launch something like that in the future. And so
Interesting.
getting ahead of it by putting all those photos on your Google Business Profile right now might potentially be a thing. But they're valuable to put on your profile anyways, regardless of some kind of feed. Yeah.
100%. Cool. Something else I want to cover is keywords in Google Business Profile services. So I feel like this was already it was already a thing, but I think it majorly jumped on the kind of where it was in the ranking results for the survey. Can you talk more about that?
This is another one where Joy Hawkins punked me. So I released this survey, and then she published, honestly, 3 weeks after, services now impact rankings. And it's so funny to see it because if you look at the 2023 edition of the survey, services were declared a local SEO myth.
No.
Yes, they are on the list as a myth. As people think that if you populate your services, it's going to help your rankings, but no, that's a myth. That's what I would have told you 2 years ago. Now on this survey, since Joy did the research and I did my own studies on top of it, and then other people tested it too, and they're like, dang it, she's right again. And so, it definitely has an impact on rankings. It's not a massive needle mover. You're not going to instantly jump to number one, but it is definitely one of the minor signals that Google looks at to see, to rank your business. And so services is a section of your Google Business Profile. You absolutely must populate it. And so Google will give you some default suggestions, they come up as little hey, do you want to add these services to your profile? And you just click them. You say yes, yes, yes. Those are called predefined services. Do those if they are relevant to your business. Sometimes there's wacky ones in there, and don't do those. But then also add custom services, and always edit every service and add a nice detailed description. It's just give Google more information. The more information you give Google about your business, the more it has to rank your business. So that's basically how it works. But it was cool to see it go from a myth to an actually pretty good factor.
That's crazy. I didn't realize it was a myth. I thought it just majorly jumped up. And then with that, should you have like your exact keywords, like let's say like a pest control Chicago, or like should you have the city in there, and should you have like 50 to 100, or you just good with like 10 to 20?
So 100 is the max. I do like to kind of go a little overboard on the services, might as well, So like I'll even do things where I'll be like pest control, wasp control, and then I'll make another service for wasp control Seattle. Pest control Seattle. Like I will kind of double down on the services and just try. And here's an awesome little tip for you. Add emojis to the front of your title, because if your service title is, let's say, wasp control Seattle, and then you're at the beginning of the thing, you actually have a picture of a bee or a wasp, like a little emoji. Those can get pulled in to what are called justifications. So if someone types in wasp control Seattle, you'll get a 3-pack, and then it'll say provides wasp control, provides wasp control. And then yours says provides wasp emoji, wasp control. The emoji is like just like this little thing that is kind of like a little blinking advertisement that'll draw people in. It just looks really cool. And so adding emojis to your service titles is a top tip.
Interesting. Okay, so just like a little way to stick out, but because no one else is doing it.
Getting back to those behavioral signals, you get anything else that can draw attention and get you that extra click. It's a good idea.
Got it. Something else I wanted to cover here was there's 8 new suspension factors. What are your thoughts, like overall, on suspensions with this survey? Did you find anything fascinating there?
I don't know. I didn't really dig into those. It's just like we're becoming aware of new factors, right? So the suspension factors, just there's more things that Google is looking at for why they'll suspend your listing, and so they're dialing this in, getting a little bit better at suspending profiles, because you know what, there's so much fake stuff going on right now, especially in an industry like pest control, where you got all these people creating fake listings, because the number 2 ranking factor is proximity to searcher. So you can only really rank around 10 miles around your business. So if you're a pest control company, you want to rank around the whole city, what do? You make 10 Google business profiles all over the city, right? So you can rank everywhere. Those are fake profiles technically. And so Google knows that businesses are trying to do this, and Google is improving their spam detection and fake profile detection, and they have stricter verification processes and much stricter suspension processes. And I think even though it creates headaches for a lot of people, I think they need to actually increase that, because there's just so much spam right now. It's like there's so much incentive to spam too, right? So if you did that and you got all those profiles online, then it just means lots more business for you. And so the incentive is huge.
Okay. So we covered a lot of the top things that have changed with the survey. I'm curious to hear your thoughts, Darren, because you put this whole thing together and you were personally a contributor.
Yep.
Is there anything you disagree with in the survey? Maybe something that was ranked too high or too low?
Well, the one that I'm like the only person that seems to disagree with this is that showing versus hiding your address thing. I don't think it's a ranking factor. I think your rankings just move, but I have to prove it. I'm still like more research required. And so if you're listening to this and you have a business and you're willing to roll the dice and hide your address, then I want you to talk to me before you do it, and I'll research that with you. That was kind of the main thing. Everything else I generally agree with. The people that I invite to this survey are the best. And so, we're all mostly aligned with things. I do see some factors that I would not rate as high as other people do. But, everyone's got their own opinions. And that's actually one of the beauties of this survey is that because it's a survey, you get the diverse perspectives. And so it's when you get all that in aggregate. And so I have my own biases, my own beliefs. And so does somebody else who's completing the survey. And when I see someone else's results, they may diverge a decent amount from mine, but maybe they know something I don't know. And so it's really great to have all these different people come together and complete the survey. And then it's the aggregate that really kind of creates the roadmap for you of like, what's important. If you only listen to one person, you're only getting a small piece of the picture. And so that's the beauty of listening to 47 of the top experts.
Yeah, no, that's the beauty of me doing this podcast too, is that I've almost collected a consensus from all the top people in local SEO, and everyone says this is a ranking factor, or only this guy who's a little bit sketchy said this.
That guy
this
is
talking
about geotagging. Yeah, don't listen to him.
yeah, exactly. So cool. So that's a good point on just collecting consensus, and that the forum is the way to do that. Kind of the last topic or segment of the show that I'd like to do is the future of local search. So just any initial thoughts? Where do you think things are headed?
Yeah, I think we're heading to a AI-driven search results, including local pack. We see it happening right now, like Google's testing the waters in AI mode. Sometimes you'll see local packs looking like in AI mode, and that's where some of this AI search in the survey, you need to be looking at that and thinking about it and thinking about like what do you need to do to improve your visibility in the AI results. Most of it is still definitely based off of your Google business profile. I think local search is one of the most insulated from the tsunami of change happening with AI search, but local is still pretty foundational. Your Google business profile, filling that out completely, optimizing it. Google's never getting rid of Google business profiles. They are an absolute gold mine of local business data that Google can leverage to actually win the AI search war. And then your website, making sure you're optimizing your website, and then some of the stuff that's in the AI visibility factors that you'll do that we talked about earlier. But the future is definitely AI driven. And so doing the stuff that you need to do to rank in AI search, getting on top of that now, that is really valuable. And then continuing to lean into your Google business profile. Google is not going to change anything there.
Okay. So definitely focus on the Google business profile. What about websites? Do you think those will evolve at all? Do you think maybe it'll be more video oriented or chat oriented? I'm curious to hear your thoughts.
I think that they will continue to be the primary database that Google uses to understand your business. So it's there's all these sources on the internet. They look at your social profiles, they look at your citations, but nothing is more important to Google to understand your business than your own website. So I definitely don't see that changing. I see your website continuing to be a really critical place where you're going to put all the information about your business, build out your service pages, add frequently asked questions, just really be comprehensive about what you do, how you do it, why you're the best, why people should hire you, all that kind of stuff. Like building out your web pages is in my opinion, going to remain critical for at least the next 5 years. I don't really see much of a change. There is an idea that people don't browse the open web anymore. They never really go to websites. They just use some kind of chat thing. But the chat thing has to get information about your business from somewhere, and your website will continue to be that data source. So I don't see websites really changing too much.
Okay. And then what about AI mode? I feel like this is kind of the hot topic, at least in the SEO space, that this got announced at Google's I/O conference. And pretty much everyone is saying and agreeing that AI mode is going to be the new version of search. It's not going to be what was previously the 10 blue links. Now that's evolved a little bit. But now it's going to be something completely different, almost like between a standard search and almost like an AI search. Right. So what are your thoughts on AI mode? Do we need to do anything there?
I think it's the same thing I just talked about. It's like all of those things, just sort of being more aware of what's in that AI search visibility factors section of this report and just doing all of those things. Like, just thinking a little bit more. The nice thing about AI SEO is that it's foundationally still SEO. Mm-hmm. So there's not a lot of changes, but there are a few things that you maybe should have been doing before that you should be doing now. Getting listed on the best of lists, diversifying your reviews across more sites, thinking about your, there's actually one little tip I'm going to give you here.
Yeah.
Citation directory descriptions. This is a slept on opportunity, I think. Most businesses, when they built their citations, so they got listed on Yellow Pages, MapQuest, Super Pages, all these sites, they did that years ago, and they just used the same business description that they've been using for the last 20 years in their business. Acme Pest Control is blah, blah, blah. And sometimes it's really poorly written. you need to rewrite that description to really think of it as like a data set, and you want it to be written in what are called semantic triples. And so that's subject, predicate, object. And so Acme Pest Control is a Dallas pest control company specializing in wasp removal or specializing in this. And so throughout the whole description, you want to optimize it to really explain in very clear terms what your business is, what it does. And sometimes the description is just sounds like fluffy flourish stuff, and it's terrible. And so rewriting that description to be very descriptive and very focused. Like sometimes all these different service areas that you want to target, they're not in your citation descriptions. Rewrite that description, really build it out, and then update all your citations. Now you're feeding the LLMs more information. So sometimes there's this whole concept of, well, what you say about yourself is only so much, but what does the broader web say about you? That's just a golden opportunity to go update all your citation descriptions to really emphasize some of these things that you haven't maybe thought about for 10 years.
Dang. No, I've never heard someone mention citation descriptions. So that's a really good one. I appreciate you sharing that.
Yep. Top tip.
So yeah. No, that's awesome. So we'll start to wrap up the show here. Darren, what would you say is your message to the local business owners out there or the local SEOs? What do you think they need to know? What do you want to tell them?
I would tell them that don't worry, the sky is not falling. AI search is a good thing. And you, being a local business, are in great shape. People will continue to search for local businesses, and they will continue to find your business just in a different interface. So all the stuff that you've already built as your foundation of SEO still applies in a new world of AI-driven search. And so, yeah, just keep doing that stuff, tweaking your program a little bit, and I think you'll be in great shape for the future.
Awesome. Cool. Well, it's been great having you on for the second time, Darren. Thank you so much for putting together the local search ranking factor survey. It's been really beneficial for me. I even, like I told you, I spoke on it at an event a few weeks ago. And a lot of people were like, "Oh my God, this is so great! I never heard about this." Because I feel like everyone in that local SEO knows about it, but not too many local business owners. So I feel like we almost need to spread the word and make sure we get it around. But
that's what we're doing.
Yeah. So thanks again for coming on, Darren. And where can people find you, learn more about you, and connect with you?
Yeah, well, definitely check out our website at whitespark.ca. We have all kinds of awesome software and services to help you with your local search rankings and local AI visibility. All of that stuff is there. You can follow me on YouTube. I got a great YouTube channel where I share all my tips. You can follow me on LinkedIn for sure. I'm actually on all the social platforms if you just search for Darren Shaw SEO. And you should listen to my podcast. Claire, Carlisle, and I have an excellent podcast where we talk about what's been happening in local search for the past week. It's called the Whitespark Local Update. So it's pretty valuable. If you like podcasts, you listen to this one, you should check that one out too.
Well, you stole my thunder, Darren, because I was going to mention your podcast.
Oh,
so
yeah? Wow.
I'll reiterate. Darren's new podcast, I think you've been running it for 3 months or so now. He has a week.
Yeah, that's about right. We got about 13 episodes.
Yeah. So he has a weekly show with Claire Carlisle, another person who's huge in local SEO. I've actually been meaning to have her on the show. And they cover all of the recent news and everything that's going on in local SEO in about a 20-minute show every single week. So you can check that out on his Whitespark YouTube channel and across podcast platforms. What's the actual name of the show? Because I just know it's on your YouTube channel.
Whitespark Local Update.
Whitespark Local Update. So if you guys are interested, I definitely recommend checking it out. Darren was like, "Hey, have you seen our podcast?" I'm like, "Dude, I've listened to every episode. Like, I love it. I think you guys, if you're serious about local SEO, if you want to know what's going on, you definitely need to listen to that podcast." And anything else you'd like to plug or promote, Darren?
Definitely check out our new software, the Whitespark Local Ranking Grids. There are other local ranking grid software out there, but we put in a ton of effort. We built it over a year, and it's just the most beautiful, easy to use, insightful software in the industry. I'm just so thrilled with what we've developed, and it's really good. So if you're using something right now, it's worth taking a look at our free trial and checking it out. It's great.
Awesome. So definitely go check out Whitespark, all the stuff they provide. And thank you again for coming on, Darren. This has been great, and I appreciate everything you do.
Thanks for having me, Danny. Always a pleasure chatting with you.
Of course.